Midna's great, but not the greatest character in the series. To some Zelda fans out there, what I just said is basically heresy. She's probably the most common answer you'll get if you ask your general Zelda fan who their favorite character in the series is. Midna is of course very special, and the hype around her is both abnormal and understandable at the same time. That's because she was the first truly fleshed out side character with a personality that can be described in more than just 3 sentences in this series. She also happened to be featured in the most sold Zelda game prior to Breath of the Wild, so a lot of people know who she is compared to a lot of the other great Zelda characters. The circumstances of her appearance definitely contributed to her popularity. However, even though I think she's clearly in the top 5, I don't believe she's the greatest character in the series. I think she's lacking one very important point to really make her that. I'll get into why towards the end of this video, but for now, let's go over why Midna's awesome. At the time Twilight Princess was released, it was the norm in the Zelda series for Link to have his companion character, at least in the 3D games. The first one of them was Navi from Ocarina of Time, and the sentiment towards her was almost unanimous. Everyone found her annoying. She constantly interrupts gameplay to tell you stuff you could have figured out on your own, and her voice can really get on your nerves after a while. Let me remind you that this is the first form of voice acting this series has ever had, and it had to be wasted on this thing. I won't go into too many more details about her, but what's important here is that Navi didn't really feel like a character of her own. She was more like an instruction booklet, giving you info on the game whether you wanted it or not, almost like a way the developers could communicate with you. For the next couple of 3D games, the companions definitely got better, but for the 4th one, we were graced with the breakout star of Twilight Princess, Midna. Right away, you could tell that something is different about her. As opposed to Navi or the King of the Red Lions, who are clearly on your side, or Tattle, who starts off being an antagonist but very quickly does a 180, it's not very clear on which side Midna is. Even though she helps you get out of your jail cell when you meet her, you're not exactly sure if she should be trusted. In other words, she seems more like an anti-hero than an ally or an enemy. It feels like she helps you out because she thinks you can help her back and nothing else really. I mean, it's definitely interesting. I'm a sucker for anti-heroes myself, so you'll get no complaints from me. But over time, she ends up telling you more and more about her goals and why she wants your help. Her world, the Twilight Realm, was taken from her unrightfully by a mysterious guy named Zant, who somehow got much more powerful overnight, so much that he was able to defeat Midna, curse her into this imp form, and exile her. He then started taking over Link's world, the Light World, not too long before the beginning of the game, starting with Hyrule Castle. What Midna is looking for are these artifacts called the Fused Shadows, whose power she can use to take out Zant and reclaim her throne. In exchange for helping her find them, Midna promises that she will lead you to some of the people from your home village who got kidnapped. She seems very confident about their location, and it's not like Link has that many other options at that point, so I guess he has nothing to lose by trusting her. Therefore, on with her he goes. Now, with what I've said so far, and especially for the probably very few people who are gonna watch this who didn't play Twilight Princess, it could be quite difficult to understand how Midna became so loved by the vast majority of Zelda players. She seems to be only using you to get what she wants, taunts you repeatedly, and outright disrespects you by riding on your back in wolf form. I don't really care that you tell me your story if you're gonna treat me like crap. I obviously won't like you. So, how did Nintendo manage to make us like her in the end? The main way they did it, I think, which is something I've seen almost nobody bring up personally, is that she actually delivers on her promises. She does bring you to the village children like she said she would. She does bring you to Ilia, who's implied to be this Link's love interest. She always does what she says she's going to do. As a bonus, she even helps you restore the Light World to how it was before Zant's invasion. even though she gains absolutely nothing from it. This is when you begin to understand that behind this facade of sass and arrogance, she does have her heart in the right place. This fake display of personality is most likely due to the fact that she lost her throne. Since she doesn't really have control over her world anymore, she tries to exert control over what she has left, which, in this case, is Link. At least, she doesn't behave like this for very long, and even though we don't learn everything about her story during this part of the game, you can still see traces of her good nature enough times to the point where it's pretty obvious that it's an act, and that she does have good intentions despite her initial behavior. This ability to make us care about a character that we, the player, in theory, don't really have any reason to like or trust, without us even realizing it or being able to explain how it happened at first, is the kind of subtlety that turns something good into something great and is phenomenal character writing by Nintendo. Seriously, great job on that one, guys.
Good job.
There's no way for us to know it at that point, but making sure we care about Midna is crucial to make this next scene work. After obtaining your final fused shadow, you are then ambushed by Zant, the man who forcefully dethroned Midna. He easily defeats both Midna and Link, ends up cursing Link to stay in his wolf form even outside of the Twilight, and after failing to convince Midna to join him, exposes her to the highest light source there could be. Fortunately, the light spear is able to teleport them away just in time, but Midna is left in critical conditions, and it's up to Link to take her to Zelda per her very weakly mumbled request, and to top it all off, this music plays. This is Twilight Princess's greatest moment by far, and one of the greatest in series history, but it could only be so if we cared about Midna. If we didn't, it'd still be a good cutscene, no doubt about that, but it wouldn't have had as much of an impact as it did. Once you reach Zelda in Hyrule Castle, she ends up sacrificing herself to heal Midna, allowing her to exist in the Light World, which concludes this whole subsection of the game. At this point, something about Midna has become pretty apparent, something that hasn't happened before or since until I'd say the 3 Switch 1 games. Midna is the protagonist of this game. Link's story pretty much ended when the Ordon Village kids and Ilia were safe. The rest of the game isn't really his story, it's Midna's. Most of the game is about her. She is the main character of the appropriately titled Twilight Princess. It's pretty interesting to have a main character that's not the playable one like this, and like I alluded to, you could say that Nintendo did it again later with Zelda and Breath of the Wild, and especially in Tears of the Kingdom. But I think most of us would agree that it didn't reach the heights of Midna, not even close. So, seeing how much I've praised Midna so far, and there was definitely a lot to talk about, why did I say that I don't think she's the greatest character in the series? The reason is because she lacks one thing that would make me put her that high, and that thing is a true character arc. Midna doesn't really change throughout Twilight Princess. She's more or less the same person, believes in the same things, and views things the same way from the moment you meet her until the end of the credits. Even when regaining her true form again, she still has all of her sass. Yes, her behavior towards Link changes after a certain point, but we've already established that it was a facade anyway, so it doesn't really count now, does it? While I'm on the topic, I really would have liked to see Midna not ride on your back when in wolf form after Zelda's sacrifice. In my story analysis of Ocarina of Time, I mentioned that the items you obtain in that game help show how much Link has grown from a boy to a man, but I think there was a missed opportunity here to show that Midna's snarky and kind of disrespectful attitude towards Link isn't a thing anymore, and that would have been a great way to show it. It's a small thing, but it really makes a difference. Back on topic now. The best argument I've seen people bring up is that in a cutscene before the final act of the game, she mentions that she didn't really care about the light world before, but now she knows she has to save it too. I see why people can interpret this as a form of change, but there are a couple things to consider here. Firstly, she almost assuredly had never been outside of the Twilight Realm before being dethroned. Call me crazy if you think I'm wrong, but it's hard to genuinely feel any sort of way towards something you've never seen or interacted with before. She, at the very least, had the knowledge of the Light World's existence before the beginning of the game, that's why she tried to find Link in the first place, but she also never seems to have any form of resentment towards it either, which is a little surprising considering where her people come from. If she said she hated the place before this whole adventure, you might have a point here, but she's clearly just indifferent towards it, and I'd say that's just normal and very understandable behavior. And secondly, I don't think she says this because she really cares about the world itself, but more so because she cares about Link and Zelda specifically. That would make a lot more sense to me. She has never really shown any sign of appreciation towards the Light World at any point, but she did show signs that she appreciates these two other people. She never disliked Zelda, she never disliked Link, in fact it was mostly Link who disliked her at first. That'd be a change for him, not Midna. So what changed for her? I can only conclude nothing, but that's not the end of the world. It's basically complaining that your sundae doesn't have a strawberry on it. It's still a delicious sundae at the end of the day. So despite the small nitpick, Midna is still without question one of the greatest characters in Zelda history. The series has its fair share of memorable characters, for better or worse, but Midna does stand out as the first really well-written one. If you think that she should be considered the greatest character because she was the first one, I completely understand. It's a very fair argument. That said, I do think there are a couple characters who have that cherry on top of their sundae. If you asked me what I care about the most when it comes to storytelling, my answer would without a doubt be the characters. I find the story much more interesting to follow, as well as get into the universe presented if I care about the people who are involved. This is what Midna does, to me at least, for Twilight Princess. She absolutely carries this story, and I definitely would not care as much about what's going on in the game if she wasn't in it. Her impact is still felt in Zelda games released almost 20 years after she first appeared. She helped breathe new interest in Zelda at a time when the franchise was struggling to sell, and without her, this series would undoubtedly not be the same. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, do the things the algorithm likes, and make sure to let me know what you think about Midna in the comments. Is she your favorite Zelda character? Is she not? Why is that? Am I crazy for my takes? Whatever it is, just let me know. But with that said, take care and see you next time, guys.